Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you've got gas, the morning edition. How you doing this morning? You are there, right? I don't see you yet. Let's see, you're not up there, not down there. You're not here yet. Oh no! Actually, you'll be here. I'm Hot Rod Bob. Good morning, everybody. There you go. Everyone's tuning in. They're used to my 11 a.m. start time, and I'm glad you're here. You are Gasaholics. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about something, kind of simple and kind of necessary. Now, many of us have cars that are a little on the noisy side. Whoops.
Good morning,
I got
everybody.
this thing popping up here.
Everyone's tuning in.
Oh,
They're used
no,
to my
you're not.
11 a.m. start time, and I'm glad you're
I got to
here.
get this clear. There we go. All right. Sorry about that, but my computer came on all of a sudden with you guys watching it, and I'm glad you're here. All right, so let's talk about mufflers. The silence of the car. Yes, it happened. Back in the early days when cars were first developed, one of the complaints about them by non-automotive owners was they were noisy. They scared the horses. Well, you got to remember, the motor transportation back then was primarily horse-driven buggies. So the car didn't have a muffler, and the automobile, they didn't call them cars yet. The motor, or the engine, made noise. You had an internal combustion engine. It made loud popping noises, especially when there was no muffler on it. Now, to give you an idea, even single-cylinder Briggs and Stratton engines that we use in junior dragsters are noisy. As a matter of fact, they're quite noisier than my regular car is, and my hot rod. Now, there are various kinds of mufflers. Now, we'll go into the history of the muffler because that did start way back when. And it's because of the noise. Now, initially, they weren't called mufflers. That's something we call them here in the States, because in Britain, they call them something else, and I'm sure one of the people from the United Kingdom that are watching right now can fill me in on what you call them there. But I think they call them silencers there, not mufflers like we do. And we've got different names for things. Good morning, Marlon. How are you? Rob Pratt. Now, the first type of muffler that came out had a baffle in it. It was developed by Milton Reeves of the Reeves Pulley Company. Okay, well, let's see what you guys are saying here. Real hot rods don't have mufflers. Yeah, you're right. Well, yeah, they do. But race cars don't necessarily. All right, so the first mufflers came out in the late 1800s, about the same time the the automobiles started to hit the streets. It was invented in response to the loud noise and disruption to the community. So it wasn't just the horses, it was the people not ready to listen to or hear the sound of an internal combustion engine. You got to remember, that was a new thing back then. Morning, Deb. How are you doing this morning? So people in communities were annoyed by the noises. The horses were frightened, and you got to remember, this was not a normal sound back in those days. So Reeves developed a baffle system. He created it in 1896, and it quieted vehicle engines down quite a bit. Now, a Frenchman named Eugene Houdry, Houdry, is considered the father of the modern-day muffler. Yes, the silencer, the little piece that goes underneath the car that robs horsepower but quiets the engine sound. Now, he was born in the late 1800s and was a mechanical engineer. He didn't come up with his design until later on when he was older, early 1900s. Good morning, Paul Summers. How you doing? And it became the basis and the standard for mufflers in cars all over the world. And it was patented finally in 1962. It took a long time before he got his patent and before his style of muffler became the acceptable style. Now, since then, a lot of companies have come out with different style mufflers. Why? Well, we don't want to pay royalties to this guy for his design that was patented in 1962. Now, there were practical developments over the years, and since the 60s, a lot of things have happened. Now, one of the things I did, and most guys did, back in the early days of hot rodding, was you wanted a set of glass packs. Yeah, that was the way to go. Tubular mufflers with a baffle inside that had basically, it was a smaller exhaust tube with a bunch of holes in it. Those holes let the pulsation from the engine go into the fiberglass, and it was not the mat like you're used to seeing when, people make a fiberglass part. It was just the fiberglass hairs, and they were wrapped around the baffle, silencing somewhat, but really mellowing out the sound. Now, Pete Muriello dreamed that he was a muffler and woke up exhausted. Okay, Petey. Yeah, you've been sipping too much of that stuff lately, haven't you? Go juice. Anyway, the technology of the time, a glass pack muffler was considered a performance muffler. Now, it did improve performance over a standard muffler. Not by much, but basically because it was a straight-through design. Now, it had no baffles that we're used to seeing where it misdirected or redirected the exhaust flow to break up the sounds and quiet things down. It was just a straight-through design. Like I said, holes in a pipe inside a larger enclosed tube with fiberglass wrapped around it. And that would create a more mellow sound, but it was not restrictive. And to that point, non-restrictive is not necessarily a good performance improver. Sometimes it creates turbulence in the exhaust and will actually harm the horsepower. Now, when you get a big tube, it's going to let more exhaust flow through there. There will be a power gain. Now, Borla says you can expect up to a 10% improvement when you change the exhaust. Now, not just the muffler. Changing just the muffler is negligible in performance increases. But when you change the whole exhaust, or the exhaust on new cars from the catalytic converters back, you can expect a performance increase up to 10%. But don't hold them to that. They don't guarantee a 10% increase. You will get a slight increase. Your butt dyno will tell you you've got more horsepower and you're going faster. The reality is, not always. Morning, Brucey. Bruce Rothberg, my cousin in New Jersey, tuning in. Hi, Peg. How are you? Peg's got glass packs on her 1946 Ford. I've got them on my 1948 Plymouth. But on our other cars, we have different types of mufflers. We've got MagnaFlows on our 56. I've got Flowmasters on my 89 Corvette. Stock mufflers on Peg's Corvette. Stock mufflers on her stinking Lincoln. She calls him Matthew. Matthew McConaughey. He's very quiet. Yeah, he's the strong silent type. Or something like that. But it is interesting to note that not just changing the muffler, although it gives you sound, it makes you feel like you've got more horsepower. It really doesn't give you horsepower. So that's where it comes from. Now, the muffler was developed, as I said, by Milton O. and Marshall T. Reeves in Indiana in 1896 or 97, in that era. Both were awarded a patent at that time for their muffler. And it stayed pretty much that way. We talked about the other guy who had his patent in 1962, so quite a bit later, and a much different design. The Frenchman died the same year before he founded the Oxy Catalyst Company to further reduce emissions. So he came out with the catalytic converter, not the muffler. The catalytic converter was developed initially. Now, American manufacturers didn't know what to do with them, so it wasn't until the days of unleaded gasoline, because the catalytic converter gets poisoned by leaded gasoline. All right, Rex Road says, outlaw Flowmasters, but not for the squeamish. Yeah, you do that. And I was looking at the Flowmaster website earlier today, and they have a chart that goes from louder to quieter. And it tells you which of their mufflers does which job. Their loudest muffler, next to open headers, of course, is their Super 10. And that's a baffled muffler. Now, they use different angled sheet metal inside their canister. and their canister is the muffler itself, what we would call the muffler. They use a rectangular shape, somewhat rounded, and sometimes the exhaust pipes are in direct line with each other. Sometimes they break off into two, and sometimes they bring two into one. And yeah, I agree with you, Rex. My son told me the same thing. If it's too loud, you're too old. Hi, Debbie. How are you doing? Oh, sorry to make you homesick by watching this. There's no detail as to where I'm at, but you know I'm in sunny Southern California. Oh, by the way, Deb, I know it's a little warm there in Tennessee today. Today here in Port Hueneme, it's going to get up to 68 degrees. It's 62 right now. No muffler on my voice, is there? All right, so we're going into the Flowmasters, and like I said, they use different shaped sheet metal to create a baffle to make the exhaust flow and to deaden some of the sound. It also changes it. Sometimes they're mellow, sometimes they're not. Good morning, how you doing there, guy? All right, so their Flowmaster, they have one that is actually just a curved tube with holes in it, and that's their Flow FX model. Now, I'm not doing a commercial for Flowmaster. I do have them on my car, but they're not a sponsor. DBX series and the Pro series are also baffle-type mufflers that have tubes, different shapes, and holes in them, allowing the exhaust to pulsate out through those holes, slowing some of the noise down, quieting it just a little bit. There's the 50 series Delta Flow, and there's a 60 series. There's a Super 50, a 70 series, a 50 series Big Block, and that is their quietest exhaust pipe. Now, looking at that, that's for cars that have dual exhaust and use one muffler. It comes in from the front, goes out the back, two different holes, so the sound offsets it. Now, you got to remember, exhaust systems have a pulsation. Each cylinder fires differently, right? They fire at a different time. When you mesh them together, one sound could negate the other sound or reduce its harshness. So those are things to look at when you're doing a muffler. Now, I like the sound of the Flowmasters I've got on my Corvette. They sound sweet. Car revs smooth. But what I also have is a catback system with 3-inch exhaust pipes. So it flows out pretty good and strong. And it sounds great when you get on the throttle. Our 56 Chevy, on the other hand, has MagnaFlows. They're more raspy, and they've got a harsher sound. My son's old Malibu had Flowmasters on it, and he had the 40 series. And the advantage of that 40 series is when you're driving up a street late at night, when everything else is quiet, you can set off car alarms over 20 feet away. And he did on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, one time we were driving through a parking area, and it was an enclosed parking lot, and he had fun just revving the motor and setting off alarms. Bobby Dye, old, bingo. I like quiet cruising. Yeah, you do have some cool cruisers, and there is something to be said about a nice, cool, quiet cruiser. That's one of the reasons I've left the glass packs on my coupe. I could make it louder, could make it sound more like a hot rod, but you know, that mellow sound from the glass packs. I've always loved the sound of glass packs. When I had the flathead 6-cylinder in my car with the 12-inch glass packs on it, you'd rev that little 6-cylinder, Isky cam, dual carbs, high compression head, dual exhaust. It sounded like a Jag. And I love the sound of Jaguar 6-cylinder engines. They're just super smooth and they sound great. So the muffler was invented basically to appease non-automotive people because they didn't like the sound. They didn't understand the sound. Now, I have a situation where someone I know was asked by their neighbor to fix their car. There must be something wrong with it. And he said, well, what do you mean something's wrong? He said, well, when you pull out of the driveway, it's very loud and obnoxious. And he goes, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, we don't like it. And he said, you don't have to drive it. But we hear you every time you pull in and out of your driveway. He says, so what? It's my car. Well, they said, well, don't you need to fix that? He says, there's nothing broken. Non-car people, they don't understand us at all, do they? I didn't think so. All right, Corey Weaver says they're trying to manipulate sound waves, pulses, for different systems and engine combinations. And yes, it's true. And if you look at some of the cars, don't look at them. Listen to cars. Mustangs. That twin overhead cam V8 engine has a very unique sound and rumble to it. And with the right exhaust systems, they sound downright mean. And they are. Corvette, Chevy LS Series V8 engines. With the right muffler, those things are sweet. Now, the header or the exhaust manifold you have also will affect that sound. If you ever listen to a NASCAR or a stock car running 180-degree headers. Now, 180-degree header, basically, it's all 8 going into one, or based on pulsation and firing order, the tubes are running into right and left side, not necessarily just right side and just left side. The right side will connect to the left side to mitigate and take the pulses. And what they use that for is to get the exhaust pressures to scavenge or pull that exhaust out of the exhaust system more rapidly. So the 180-degree headers, and you see that a lot on short track cars where the exhaust pipe is pointed away from the grandstands, but they have a unique sound to them, not like the cars you hear on the street with standard exhaust systems. You have a right manifold and a left manifold, and your dual exhaust does that. Now, one of the things that does help in mellowing the sound is a crossover or H-pipe, or in some cases, like on my Corvette, it's an X-pipe, where the Flowmaster system comes in and meets and then spreads apart. On my Hot Rod, I have an H-pipe, and that's the right side connected to the left side. Left side to the right side. Well, it depends on what angle you're looking at this at. It doesn't matter. But it's just a straight tube connecting the right to the left side. It helps. It makes it a little bit more mellower, quiets it down just a little bit as well. The X-pipe, like I have on my Corvette, is geared to do something similar to a 180-degree header, in that the pulsations coming through will scavenge and pull, kind of like siphoning gas out of a gas tank. If you start the flow, it will pull. Well, the same thing happens in exhaust systems, and that helps the performance. And like I said, the Flowmaster guys on their website and Borla on their website will say, maybe a 10% increase from a full exhaust system. Just adding a muffler is not going to cut it. So, what are you going to do with your car? I don't need to change mufflers on anything just yet. Although, I do like the mellow sound of the glass packs. I'm thinking maybe it's time for something a little bit louder to annoy my neighbors on my coupe. What about you? I'm Hot Rod Bob. You've got gas, the morning edition, and we muffled everything just a wee bit for you today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hey, check out our YouTube channels, Two Tired Guys Productions, and Bob Beck, Hot Rod Bob, GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene, 2 YouTube sites. Now, on the Hot Rod Bob YouTube site for GAAS-Great American Auto Scene, you can see all my past gas. That's right. I'm posting all the old stuff. As I resurrect them, I'm putting them on YouTube. You can check them out there. The new stuff, talking about cars, where we talk with celebrities and other interesting people in the automotive industry, or people that have an interesting car story. We had the guys last night. It's going to go up in a couple of weeks, where we talked to the guys about movie cars. Cars that were in movies, or replicate cars that were in TV and movies. So check it out. You can see them on Two Tired Guys Productions, talking about cars with Randy Kerdoon and me. Check it out. And also, if you're watching this on my Facebook page, well, yeah, you are watching this on my Facebook page. I've run out of room for people. So I've started a new Facebook page. So I have 2 Facebook pages, and I'm making the transition now to the newer page, and you can find that at Hot Rod Bob 01. It'll come up as Bob Beck, but it's Hot Rod Bob 01. Check it out. That's where I'm going to start posting everything, and where we're going to make the transition over, because it doesn't have a limit on how many people can watch. And this site that you're watching right now does. So we're going to get rid of that. Going to open that up. I'm starting to load things on there right now. So friend it, please. By the way, subscribe to our YouTube channels. It doesn't cost you a dime. And you can see all the shows. You'll get notified when we upload new ones. Hi, Ken Warner. How are you doing? And Movie Mike. As a matter of fact, one of the cars that we looked at and talked to the owner, Movie Mike's influence was heavily there. And he's seen the car as well. Well, I'm not going to let you know what it was. No, you're going to have to watch the show and listen to Talking About Cars on radio.com. You guys have a great day. I'm Hot Rod Bob. You've got gas, the morning edition. Take care. It's brought to you by Irwindale Speedway, Irwindale Drag Strip, BUA, Beach Underwriting Associates. Hi, Debbie. How you doing? And you want John Bellamy to tune in? Well, that sounds good to me. Yeah, it does. Moon Eyes, Tucker Tire, and Service Tech, where all the equipment you need for your shop is available at Service Tech. Talk to Greg Heidenthal there. Tell him you listen to GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene with Bob Beck. You get a 10% discount on his new battery pulsing system. And I'll tell you what, I got it on my car. Works great. All right, you guys have a great day. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you got gas, the morning edition. Take care now.